So copying over our label, our UI label, UI text view, and UI button, and that stuff's going to be set based on our string link, string label, and string text, which also will be in our .m file. So let's go ahead and create these in a string link and a string str label, str text. Go ahead and save that. We'll go on to our .m file. And just like our other classes, we're going to create we're going to synthesize those variables to create our getters and setters. And we're going to do something different here. Okay. In our Apple News View controller, we set our .m file. We set a couple different variables here. See the set string label. Okay, we're setting that inside our detail view controller, based on our RSS item at the object for the title, the description, object for key with description, object for key link, and those are going to be, we're setting those here inside our Apple News View controller. So in our detail view controller, we want a function called view will appear, void view will appear. In that function is where we're grabbing that data that we set in our Apple News View controller. So we are creating our button link, which is a button item. We're setting the title to the more info. This is all the color stuff. And you see here in our label.text, text, we set our string text, which was created or passed in from our Apple News View controller. Same thing with our title. We're going to set the string label to our label title.text. And in here we also create our different colors of our button and how we want it to look. But we're also going to create a selector on this button. And what we're going to do is we're going to create an action, an IB action of what we want the button to do when it is selected or when there is a touch event. So we have to create an IB action which is our interface builder action on button link pressed. Okay, and we're using here, once that button is pressed, we're going to open a URL from our str link variable that was created in our Apple News View controller. So we also have to define that action in our .h file. And there we are creating interface builder action, which is we're calling it button link pressed, and our ID and sender. Once again, all this code is on GitHub. We'll make it a lot easier for you to kind of navigate and go through. Not much of it is is documented at this point in time, but hopefully here soon I'll be able to get some time and kind of document through the whole class and what it's doing. So here we've got our detail view controller. We have our Apple News view controller. We've got them in code. Now we have to go into our storyboard and create those. We've created our Apple News view controller. We have to set a class for that. So let's go over here to our class inspector, and we are going to pull down and go to Apple News view controller. And those are now tied together. But it's not connected to our main screen, so we have to add another button. So we go down here, our objects inspector. We're going to grab the round rect button and put it right into our main layout. Try to set it the same size here. And we're just going to call it RSS for now. And let's move it over just a little bit spacing wise. And we're going to connect that to our Apple News view controller down here. So we got it selected, and we're going to hold down Control and drag over to our view. And we're going to push that on top. Once again, you'll notice the little segue arrow here that points it to our table view controller or Apple News view controller. And we're going to set the navbar item or text field to Apple. And we've got that set. But if you remember correctly, we have a details view that we have to create yet. So I'm going to go ahead and move these around a little bit. You notice the segues move with it and give us some more room. I'm going to create just a plain old view controller. Drag it up here. And in here we've got the label. We need to set a text view and a button similar to our .h file where we've defined a label, text view, and a button, which we could also put right here as well. So let's add a label here, a text view, and a button. So let's scroll down here in our object inspector and grab a label. I'll have to zoom in a little bit here. So let's grab a label here. We're just going to keep the default text. We have to hook those in to our class after we get everything created. And back to our objects inspector, we have to look for a text view. And here is a text view. And we're going to drag it here, make it a little bigger. And with the text view, we can actually set there's a checkbox here to make sure it is scrollable. Whoops. We'll uncheck editable, and we will create it as a scrollable text view. We just want vertical and show vertical scrollers, and scrolling is enabled. Okay. So now let's go ahead and add our button. Oops. Our round rect button. Click it and drag. And we can go ahead and type more info here if we want, even though we do set that in our class. So we have a view controller here that is not tied to our detail view controller. So we have to set our class in the class inspector and make sure we select the detail view controller. And now those are tied together. Okay. Now we can do a segue from the cell if we wanted to push over to our detail view, but since we've already created that programmatically, it should automatically push everything over here. So let's save that. And we're also going to clean out, we're going to clean our current code because it still does not see the detail view controller, and this should fix any errors we have inside our app. Notice there are no issues now. So if we go in our Apple News View Controller, those are still showing up. Let's try a test build here real quick and see if that runs. One thing I forgot, because this Apple News View Controller uses our detail view, we've got to, in our .h file, import that. So we import detail view controller.h file.